I want you to listen to the president because he knew the criticism was coming. He knew that some Democrats would say, use your veto pen, stay in the fight. Here's the president.
As sympathetic as I am to those who prefer a fight over compromise, as much as the political wisdom may dictate fighting over solving problems, it would be the wrong thing to do. The American people didn't send us here to wage symbolic battles or win symbolic victories. They would much rather have the comfort of knowing that when they open their first paycheck on January of 2011, it won't be smaller than it was before, all because Washington decided they preferred to have a fight and failed to act.
Now, some Democrats will criticize him publicly. A lot of Democrats are more fiercely and with more vehement words, shall we say, not so family-friendly, criticizing the president privately. I want you to listen here to Bill Maher. Yes, he's a comedian, but he's also a social commentator. This is Bill Maher talking to Fareed Zakaria this weekend.
I'm so disappointed, and I still like him and still think there's hope. He could get it yet. But I'm so disappointed that he just seems to be another in a long line of Democrats that come across as wimpy and wussy and whatever word you want to ascribe to it, of not standing up for what they believe in enough.
Fair?
Yes. Bill Maher speaking for a whole lot of Democrats out there. And I think where the president made a huge mistake in tone in the speech tonight was in saying that Democrats who will oppose this in principle, and on principle, the way Senator Brown seems to be leaning toward opposing it, he didn't say, I understand people of good conscience and principle in my own party may not be able to swallow this compromise, but I have to do it for the good of the country. He set himself up above both parties, but this is going to annoy the Democrats more. And look what he said. He said that would be political, it would be wrong, it would be symbolic, and to do so would put fighting over solving problems. Not, look, I understand people of good conscience just can't justify when this proposal. When he was in the Senate, Barack Obama called these tax cuts for the rich, the income tax cuts, he said they troubled his conscience. So it was a moral issue for him. It's a moral issue for a lot of Democrats. He needs to be very careful about the attitude that he's using, that those who disagree with him are somehow political and wrong and want to fight instead of solve problems.
I can't resist because of the Democratic president you last worked for, but might we call that triangulation?
Well, absolutely. Bill Clinton, I remember that. It was a very tough time for him and for the Democrats as well. That's absolutely true. And you have to be very careful.
It's a good time to be a political reporter.
I bet so. Having lived through that, you have to be very careful about not telling people in either party who disagree with you because of principle that you're the only principled person in this game. And this is the attitude that at least I, as a progressive, got out of President Obama's speech tonight.
So what have we learned about it? Because this is the first teachable moment, if you will, since the election. How would he react to what happened in November?
Well, again, we actually saw this take place when it came to the health care debate. We saw it when it came to the stimulus, and that is when he put it in the hands of Congress. When Democrats were saying, look, Mr. President, give us exactly what you want so we can then go to battle for it. His deal pretty much was, look, you send me a particular bill. He has to reach a point where he does draw a line in the sand. When you think about presidents in the past, you can say whatever you want to about President Ronald Reagan. But when he said, I'm going to fire you air traffic controllers if you do not return to work, when he did, he sent a signal to Congress, to folks out in the public, do not mess with this president. And so I do believe that every president, every leader, mayor, governor has to have a certain level of fear from his own party, but also the opposition party. And I think the president has made it perfectly clear. I'm going to toe the line, or that I will cut the deal if necessary, but he has not shown on any particular issue that I've yet to see where I am willing to go to the mat on this because this is my principle.
The way I'll have to defend him now because you're taking a shot. The way President Clinton did when Newt Gingrich wanted to cut Medicare by $270 billion. He vetoed that budget and they shut down the government. Everybody thought that Clinton could be rolled, and he stood firm.
So should President Obama have allowed taxes to go up and said, you know what, the Republicans are going to blame me, I'm blaming them, and let's continue the fight? Would
win. That's right. He should have more confidence in himself. He would win that fight, John.
I wrote a column for CNN.com, and it was very clear. I said the GOP was simply way back saying, we know you're going to blink. At some point, you have to push it to that point because they're saying, look, we know you're not going to let the middle class not get cut, so we'll just lay back and wait.
Do Republicans fear him? This used to be your Republican strategist now on the outside. You worked on the Hill for a long time. Do Republicans fear the President of the United States?
Look, this is, on Roland's point, this goes to something I've been very critical about, which is the President's lack of executive ability. Today, the pageantry was very bad for this President. He looked like a justifier-in-chief, an explainer-in-chief, rather than a commander-in-chief. That bodes very poor for how his standing looks, his profile looks like with the American public. But up on Capitol Hill, not only Republicans, John, but amongst Democrats. He's always been liked, but he's never been feared and respected. Now, that fear and respect, the lack of fear and respect is going to make it very hard for him, not only with Republicans, but with Democrats up on
Because the fear for Democrats is, if we take the stand, will you have our back? Right. And I'm hearing folks saying on this particular issue, hey, where we are. For instance, the taxes 2 years out. Democrats are saying, why don't we extend unemployment benefits instead of 2 years, instead of 13 months?
And they're going to be increasingly convinced that he's in survival mode geared towards 2012 and not worried about their interests.